Hey there, today we are going over how to make your own apple cider vinegar. And I'm going to go over a few different ways because specifically what I'm making today is more of what's called a scrap vinegar than a traditional cider vinegar. So I will go over what I'm doing and then kind of expand a little bit on what some other methods are as well. But as homesteaders, what's really important to us is making sure that all of our waste gets repurposed, if possible, of course. So what I've just done, actually for another video, is juiced a ton of apples and pears in our trusty juicer. It's not trusty. If any of you are planning on asking me what brand it is, it sucks. But it does work. So we juiced our apples and our pears, not much. We got about this much juice. And I'm going to be making a kefir whey soda in here to show you all how to do. It's one of our favorite drinks. Super easy. Made from fresh juice, sweetened to your liking. You don't have to go crazy with the sugar. So it's a really healthy probiotic fermented soda. So that'll be another video. But I did just do my juicing for that. And what I did was I scraped out all of the juice pulp. I know you guys are thinking, oh my gosh, I've been wondering how to repurpose juice pulp my whole life. And I put it in this large jar here. So some other things to make scrap vinegar you can do is, we have like a giant bowl of apples and a giant bowl of pears here because Francesco and Augustine love apples and pears. That's their sweet treat of choice. So they eat them constantly. So another thing that you could do is start a apple and pear or whatever fruit. Any vinegar can be made. You can make vinegar from any fruit. Strawberries, blueberries, blackberries, raspberries. So if you ever have any fruit that's turning, it's getting a little too soft for your liking, you can absolutely repurpose it in vinegar. You can also mix fruit in vinegar. For example, I'm doing apple pear because that's what we have on hand. You could do a raspberry strawberry. You could do all sorts of things. I wouldn't recommend banana though. So anyways, what you're gonna do, if that's what you're doing, is start tossing your apple cores, your waste, into a jar. You want to make sure they stay covered the entire time, which is the part I'm gonna get to next, your sugar water. And then you're going to want to just put some cheesecloth. You could use a thin napkin or a coffee filter. We're gonna put this over our jar and either use a rubber band or a string to tie it on there. Homesteading is all about using what you've got, so don't get too crazy. So that said, our rule of thumb for making vinegar is 1 tablespoon of sugar per 1 cup of water. And we did 14 cups of water in here. So there's also 14 tablespoons of sugar. You're gonna wanna make sure your sugar and your water are incorporated. So I put the water on the stove. I'm not gonna get it too hot, just warm enough to stir the sugar in. The reason I don't like to get it too hot is because you really want the natural yeasts that are on your fruit because they're gonna help to ferment your vinegar quicker. So make sure you start with a sterilized jar. You can sterilize it with really hot temperatures in the oven or hot water or rubbing alcohol. You're going to want to put your scraps in there, apple cores, whatever they are, and then you're going to want to cover with your sugar water mixture. And here's the cool thing. Say it's Monday and we all eat an apple. I can put 3 apple cores in here, pour enough water in it to cover the apples, add that many tablespoons of sugar. Now it's Wednesday. We all 3 eat more apples. I can then add more apples to that and more sugar and water to that. And that is the whole point of it being a scrap vinegar. We just so happened to be making a ton of juice, so we were able to get all of our scraps and all of our sugar water mixture in at once. So I want to say this was about halfway full of our apples and pears. and then we use twice as much water and sugar. I have never personally experimented with using like coconut sugar or agave or anything. I'm sure there's tons of articles online. For our fermented beverages, I really don't mind making a traditional simple syrup out of sugar and water, because what happens during fermentation is the good bacteria is feeding off of the sugars, so your final product isn't going to be full of sugar. So, at this point, I've made my sugar water, I've got my scraps in, I'm covering it with cheesecloth and a rubber band, and here's what we've got. Now I'm gonna put it in a dark place for 3 weeks. You can be stirring it throughout the 3 weeks. In fact, it is recommended that you taste test it a few times, because if it's the tartness that you desire, or it's getting real tart, you can stop it a little quicker, but I like to let it go pretty close to 3 weeks. So you're going to be checking it throughout the 3 weeks. Make sure it looks good and bubbly and happy and like the fermentation is taking place. And then after your 3-week mark, you're going to remove the cheesecloth, strain your apple scraps, your whatever scraps you're using, off. You will be left with your, sugar water juice mixture. Compost your scraps, dump your liquid back in the jar, put the cheesecloth and the rubber band back on it, and let that go for another 3 weeks. Now at this point you can do the taste test, and if it's at your desired level of tartness, you can end this one a little quicker if you'd like to, but 3 weeks and 3 weeks is the general rule of thumb. So far we've got rule of thumb, 1 tablespoon of sugar, 1 cup of water, all the way up. You just want to make sure that your scraps are covered. You're going to let it sit all together for 3 weeks, strain, and let it sit again for 3 weeks. Now, another good thing to note, since I used a bunch of scraps, well, of course I did, we're making scrap vinegar, but since I used pulp, it's a little heavier than just scraps, so I don't necessarily need to put something on top to make sure that it all stays submerged and covered, but you might if you're just using, like, say, pear or apple skins and cores. So you can use, like, don't use metal, whatever you use, but you could use a rock, you could use a ceramic bowl or plate, glass, just to make sure that you keep your pulp submerged under your liquid. So it's really simple to make vinegar. I feel like every time I do these videos, there's really not many instructions for me to show you all, but that's okay, because hopefully the point that I'm getting across is that this is as easy as it sounds. Or it's easier than it has sounded, and maybe you've been too intimidated to do it up until now. So we're gonna let this sit, and when it's ready, it will be many incredible things. Maybe we'll make oxymels with it. Maybe we'll make a switchel or haymaker's punch, which is something we're gonna go over this month as well. Just a really nice, refreshing beverage. Or it'll just be, vinegar that we cook greens in, put on salad dressings and whatnot. The version that I just showed you all is going to be perfectly fine without a SCOBY. A SCOBY is going to be the vinegar mother. Ooh, we have lots of these. It's going to make one itself in this style. However, if you have a little bit of apple cider vinegar that has the mother in it, which unfiltered, raw, organic apple cider vinegar will have some, even if you don't see it, it's just going to be that sediment at the bottom. Splashing a little bit on this will really help it create that mother a lot quicker. And if you already have a mother, like we do, you can go ahead and put this in there to help it speed up quicker. We have all different sizes. So much of what we make produces mothers on its own that we just save them all, because then you can make vinegar really quickly. For example, we could take this juice that we just strained, stick one of those bad boys in there, and it's going to be vinegar in just a couple weeks. So that said, when you make your scrap vinegar, if it creates a mother, keep that mother separated so that you can continue making vinegars super easily in the future. I'll probably put one of these tiny ones in here just to help it get along a little faster. What else do I want to say? Vinegar, scobies. I'm not really sure, but I'm really, my goal this month is to get you all inspired by using your scraps and your waste and making things really super easy. We're going to be focusing on vinegars, and one of my favorite things to do with apple cider vinegar is just keep a jar on the counter. And every time we go outside, if we find some dandelions or some chickweed, cleavers, ground ivy, spring beauty, all of the violets, all of the incredible spring medicinal herbs, we can just throw it in that vinegar, and then we can use that vinegar in anything we want to. We could stir some honey in and make an oxymel. Excuse me. We can add it to our bone broths. We can add it to greens, all sorts of things. And then we've got a nice medicinal infused vinegar. So yeah, that's the goal this month. I'm really just a huge fan of reusing scraps, period, and it's something that I want to get people's juices flowing about during this time where we're feeling a little bit of fear about the abundance of food during this pandemic. And there's really just so much value in scraps. Of course, you can always compost them, but there's other things you can do too. For example, right now we're saving all of our citrus peels, oranges, lemons, limes, grapefruits, in a bowl in the fridge or the freezer to add to teas right now. We are saving avocado skins and onion skins for maybe doing an herbal dye. You can actually save the skins of onions and garlic to put in your broths as well. And then similar to how you would do a bay leaf, you're just going to take it out at the end. But the medicinal properties of the onions and garlic will still be getting in through the skin. And the skin of onion and garlic, that flaky stuff that we toss to the side, has quite a bit of benefits going for it. So I really encourage you to start saving everything. You can easily put them in Ziploc bags in the freezer so you don't have to think about what you're going to do with it right then. And then you can say, okay, I've got this big bag of like onions and garlic and rosemary and thyme that was going bad and all these herbs and things. What can I do with it? I've got all these citrus peels and all this stuff. What can I do with it? And then you can really start to think about, well, I could make an infused vinegar, I could make my own vinegar, I could make a really nice medicinal broth, so many things. So that's what we're really trying to drive home here. And then like I mentioned earlier, another video coming up soon is going to be the kefir whey soda. We have a video on making kefir. If you haven't watched that yet, it's super, super easy. It has way too many benefits not to. It can be made vegan or not. And your kefir separates, and there's this really nice whey at the bottom, and it has many uses. We give it to the goats, the dogs, ourselves in smoothies, but our favorite thing to do is to take a couple tablespoons of it and mix it with a little bit of sugar and juice and make our own fermented sodas. It's awesome. So these are all videos you can look forward to this month. I'm really excited to be getting all this time in the kitchen right now, to share these things with you all. So thank you so much. Let me know if you have any questions.